All right. It worked. It
We
worked.
made it.
Welcome, everyone. I'm trying to be fancy. This is what happens when I do something four times.
Fourth time already.
Fourth is the fanciest.
Dang, time
That's
flies.
yeah. This is episode 4. Something I think I called it something to do with State Tree. So doors open.
All right, we can do that.
Yeah. So I'm Dan Reynolds, and I'm currently a senior technical audio designer at Epic Games, and this is the Tech Audio Chat where we chat about tech audio in games. That's it. Yep.
Indeed.
Yep. And we do the tech audio and we chat about it. And I'm joined by Eric Buchholz. Damn it, I did it again. Buchholz.
You'll get it one of these.
I'll get it. Yeah.
One of these episodes. Yeah,
I did it pretty good last time. I remembered.
That's true. Yeah, I'm Eric Buchholz. I'm also currently a technical audio designer at Epic, and we're gonna do some State Tree today.
Yeah, we're messing around with State Tree. Yeah, and this is not an official thing, even though we're both from Epic. That's just a coincidence. Yes, and also we're working in Unreal. That is also a coincidence. Weird. That. Yeah. So last week we messed around with State Tree, like idiots. We just barged into State Tree and thought we would know how to use it right away, and that obviously it's like a professional state machine for interactive software.
There's a little bit to it that is beneath the surface. You got to go in a little bit.
A little bit more involved. Yeah. So respect the tools. But yeah, so I think I think by the end of it, we kind of understood it. So if you want to watch 2 hours of people trying to figure out how to use something, check back to the last episode.
It's all there, recorded for you to watch.
There. That's right. That's actually a pretty big part of the job. I would say a big part of my work is trying to figure out how something works.
Just exploring.
Yeah, exactly. Well, oftentimes if I'm getting a task, especially like an implementation task, I have to jump into some system and I have no idea how that system works. Yeah. And I'm like trying to trace function calls or looking at classes and stuff like that, or jumping through the reference viewer to try to figure out where like content is linked and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, I think that it's just part of
valuable.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. So
maybe not the most entertaining to watch, but
no, well, I don't know. Yeah. Put it on the background while you're making dinner or something like that. Perfect.
And tell us in the comments what you're making for dinner. Yeah,
engage. That be part of the conversation. So we're trying something new. And by what I mean by trying something new, I just decided to subscribe to some fancy service for live streaming, because why not? Like, why do something half anything? So unless you're doing like half and half because you want like as much variety as possible, that's another story. So I subscribed for a whole year, so this is what you get for a whole year. So if it was a mistake, that's on me, and you'll get to share with that. So there.
It'll work.
It'll work out. We've got Stephen Lawless in the chat waving. I assume that's what that is. I assume it's like a hand wave and not like something coming out of between the fingers. And Eric is also in the chat. There you go.
Yeah. You're just showing off the new chat or the new stream features now. We got all the fancy graphics, the motion, the scenes, and
people like it. It's called production value. That's what it's called. Yeah. That intro music is music that I wrote. Actually, the story behind that music is I was really excited about trying out Unreal Engine 4, and I wanted to try to make an interactive music intro to loop kind of thing. And I made that music actually so that I could experiment with that. And you can actually find, I don't know if you can still find like my like really early posts on the Unreal forums trying to figure out how to how to do the thing. So yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, Steven, your appreciation is appreciated.
You get to put people on the spot now.
I get to put them on the spot. It's true. It's true.
But
So
we don't want to discourage anyone.
no. Its spot is good. Spot is good. Here, speaking, it's I could put. There you go. We can put everyone on the spot.
That's everything anyone needs to know about me.
That's right. I didn't make one for myself yet. Yeah.
I can write yours then if
you
wrote that one for me.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So there you go. Right. So State Tree is a state management system, and I thought what could be an interesting implementation, and I think we could probably do it in one session, is a kind of general purpose state manager. Let me switch over.
No, 1 year, everybody.
Yeah. That's right. 1 year. Oh, goodness. Okay, so, oh yeah, and I also learned something interesting for some reason when, on my computer, and maybe it's my, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's my graphics card, something like that. On my computer, my video share drops frames when I have Unreal in focus. I don't know why. So, buckle up, I guess. So yeah, so I was thinking, okay, we've got State Tree, which as we actually let me come back here, so we can sort of like we've got State Tree, and with State Tree, I'm thinking again we want to have something that's useful for designers. I'm thinking we want to have control over control bus mixes, like we kind of messed around with last week. But I think also what would be cool is to have control over like a submix effect chains. So you could like maybe have like swap out reverb with based on state, that sort of stuff. And so that would come down to, I think that would come down to like the tasks are the things that that you enact. And so we could have a couple of different task subtypes. Maybe like a control bus task type and maybe a submix effect chain override task type. And then those would have like some kind of data-driven method for authoring those tasks. So in other words, the task would just implement the data. The reason I'm thinking of separating it out is, well, I guess you could do kind of an all-in-one if we allow for multiple tasks. Yeah. And I think we could just implement the gameplay schema like we did last time and just use that system. And then it would be cool to have maybe like a volume that that when you now that I think, so I haven't, have you implemented audio gameplay volumes?
Yeah.
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 Because it'd be cool to have a like an audio gameplay component, or like volume component, that you could implement that would send state tree data based on the listener entry and exit. I think that's one of the events that you can override, right? In the
Yeah, you get the listener enter and listener exit.
yeah. So that would be cool to have like some states that so it could like address, and then maybe we could have the state tree be addressable from anywhere by like storing it on the gameplay or the game instance, maybe.
Yeah.
Trying to not use C++ here. So that could be an interesting. Yeah, I think that could be an interesting. What do you think?
I usually deal with the game state. I don't know how what the the major differences are between the game instance and the game state, but
I think the assumption is that game instance. So the game instance exists between worlds. The game's instance is usually just transient data. So I don't think it actually matters which one. Yeah, I don't think it actually matters
yeah.
which one. Um, I think the assumption is it's actually really interesting. Uh, I I think because they're both A info actor types. When maybe it's a loading like a loading order thing because the game like I usually think of the game instance as relevant transient data, right?
Yeah.
That needs to survive throughout the whole game experience.
Yeah.
So I usually, so like the canonical example of using the game instance would be like the player score is stored on the game instance.
Yeah. So I guess it's just like a hierarchy of lifetime management
I
sort of
think so,
things. The
yeah.
game instance, and then probably like your game state is inside of
There's
the level instance or something.
there's actually a really great video.
I know the one you're talking
You
about.
know
Yeah,
the one I'm talking
I
about,
look
yeah.
at that one all the time, and it's when I have
It's
to
really
pull it
dense.
off the top of my head, where it's like I don't
I
remember what all
know,
these
right?
things do. But
Yeah, yeah. I usually go for it like for the one, the one thing that I'm looking for. Like, when does this come in? What come into play? When does this get ordered?
yeah,
Yeah. So, but I think either way, it's something. They exist between worlds.
how easy is it to access the game instance from Blueprint though? Because I know you can have like game instance subsystems that are
Anywhere.
accessible
It's
um,
anywhere.
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 Okay, cool. Yeah, that
Yeah. In
sounds
fact, it's
convenient.
just like yeah. So like for example, just like grab a actor
Can you share your
and
screen?
yeah. Sorry. It's this. Okay. So I grab an actor and then I can just do like game instance. It's that easy.
Wow.
So and the game so in the game instance if you go to your project settings under maps and modes, I think. Yeah, here. So it's sorry, here we go. Oh, it's down here at the bottom. So your game instance class is this drop down menu here
Okay.
at the bottom. Yeah. So I guess yeah. I guess this is interesting. So here's the thing. Here's the kind of interesting thought. Is that the game state. I guess another question would be how does replication work for parameters members on the game state versus the game instance.
Yeah.
It's something we don't have to necessarily concern ourselves with right now. I mean, we could just have a component anywhere. But
It's more the general idea and the pattern, I think, that we want to show people that they can add components to these kind of global objects that are easy to access.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that actually what could be an interesting pattern is having a um, like a manager, like kind of what we did before, where we have like a manager actor, right? That you just put in the world, and then what it does is it checks with the game instance if there is a current
yeah.
valid manager component or
Either
whatever,
way.
and then it retrieves it, manages it, and then if it doesn't, it instantiates one on the fly. And that way you can, because the actor, yeah, the whole actor thing, the actors are really frustrating. Actors are one of those things that I get sort of frustrated with. Worlds and actors are very frustrating in Unreal to me. I don't like the idea of actors as manager objects, but everything really is an actor of some kind. Like even the game instance is an actor subclass.
Just put a
So,
component on it.
well, yeah, but so the challenge. So here's the thing with the game instance. This is So if we make a game instance,
We're not looking at your screen.
oh yeah. So if we make a game instance subclass here, going to blueprint. Sorry, let's go blueprint class. And game instance. The like if I go my game instance, the so yeah, so you can add. Well, it's actually no. Oh, you know what? Because it's an A info subclass.
Okay.
So there isn't. I think technically you could add a component as a sub object, but you'd have to. I think you'd have to create it. I guess I've done that in C++, but I haven't done that here. Anyway, what you don't have is a world, which is an issue, right? So like you don't have. So like for example, if I put like a spawn sound function. Oh, that's concerning. There's no world though. I don't know.
I mean, there should be a world for it's still an actor, right? So I think what it doesn't have is a transform.
It doesn't have a transform, but okay, yeah. Spawn. Oh, add. Let's add state. Oops, add component by class. Let's see. State tree. Yeah, I guess it could work. Let's see. We have init. Event. I think that gets called.
Now, is that? Yeah, that's interesting.
It's not an actor. It doesn't call
Yeah,
itself.
because this lives outside of the world, doesn't it? So.
Yeah, that's the.
I see. Yeah.
That's why. So that's why I was thinking of having like a actor manager that then we. That is actually the thing that does the quote unquote management. But instead of making it a sub like a default sub object. So here, let me go.
I'm gonna grab that video for chat.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let me just make a directory here called mix system. Yeah, Charles demands the video. There you go. So if we make an actor type and we call it mix manager. And the other one was instance. Actually, are we using the what are we using here?
I posted the link to the video, but I'm not sure if it's like moderated because I'm like spamming a link or something.
Yeah, it might be automatically moderated. Do you want to just share your screen and show the?
I can.
Or you know what I could do? Oh, actually, here, send it to me and I'll add it as a banner.
There we go.
That's using technology. 21st century here. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can. Okay, just give me a second here. It's. Oh, there we go. Can I copy link address? Cool. This is the int main to begin play, right?
This is. I never know what the name of it is, but I know the thumbnail. It's got like the bars. Yeah, int main to begin play.
So there's the video. Sorry, it's you have to type it in the old school.
Are those L's or I's?
No one knows.
You'll just have to try every combination. Maybe you could post a link in the chat because you're the host.
Oh, that's a good idea. Maybe I can.
Maybe you won't be moderated.
Maybe I have the power. Let's see. There you go.
There it is.
Yeah. New window that. Oh, what did it do to the the HTTP? On my thing, it made like a sad face or something like that.
Looks fine to me. Oh no, I see it. Like in Eevee, yeah.
It parsed the colon
slash
/ as a sad face. That's really funny. Yeah, Raphael, it's an interesting question. I used to teach Wise, and they're just different. They're just different ways of thinking about the problem. I think one of the things that I think you need to appreciate is that Wise is a like whole audio engine, and metasounds are currently just the like sound source. So it's more like comparing. In some ways, it's like comparing parts of the actor mixer hierarchy with metasounds. And in some ways, it's like there's stuff that you can do in metasounds that you can't do in Wise at all. Like Wise just would have you do that outside of the software and bring it in. But vice versa as well. There's like a lot of things that Wise has are systems that are already designed for you. And Unreal has a bunch of it's like you can kind of make any system you want in Unreal. So I think that's a big difference. Like what we're doing right now, Wise has already solved that problem, but they've solved it their way. It's not the way that I would solve the problem necessarily. So yeah.
And you can solve it however you want to.
Yeah, I think that's part of the fun of it. I think is the idea that you can you have like a blank canvas and you can kind of build whatever you want. And if you're in my opinion, if you're like an indie game and you've got lots of time and no publishers breathing down your neck, working in Unreal is kind of like pretty awesome because you have so much freedom with what you decide to do with that. And then I think if you're like a AAA title and you've got like a 5-year cycle or something like that, like then you definitely want to build your own tools. You're gonna do that anyway, and so you want to have the most like closest to the metal that you can be for that. I don't know. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I think it's nice to be integrated with the rest of the gameplay and all the animations and stuff. Like you're building stuff alongside of them, and those are systems that you can use and reuse and adapt and modify and build on in the future as your needs develop. And so it's fun to watch like some prototype you made ages ago, and like a couple of years pass by, and now it's like a whole new system that you've been building and adding on to over time.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. You were talking about how, because that's kind of what we're doing today, right? Like the state tree is not an audio specific system, right? State tree was made by the AI team, and they I started prototyping music systems with state tree really early on, and the AI, like the lead of the AI engineering team, was so excited about that prospect. They were jazzed about the idea that someone would use their thing to like make a music system. Like what? And so I think and now like that, and I think that helped them sort of see the vision of sort of state tree beyond AI, and now it's like a super robust state manager. So I think there's a lot of value in seeing the potential use of like other teams make, right? So yeah, and it's not to say that you couldn't use state tree with Wise. I mean, you could, right? But yeah, it's just like there's a lot to be said for the synergy between multiple teams building things. And I think separating yourself from that process, from the development process, only serves to separate you from that synergy. Like I think that's so I like working in the thick of it personally because of that. Right.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do this. So here's my mix manager. Oh yeah, and I was gonna make a. Hold on a second. That's my footsteps. Where did I put my directory? Where did I put my directory? Oh, mix system. There we go. All right. Let's make game instance. Well, let's hold that off. We'll deal with that later.
Yeah.
Because that's really only relevant if we're jumping levels. And we want to persist the state of our mixes through level changes. But right now we could just sort of deal with this actor to start with. So I'm going to have this actor. I'm going to have it add a state tree component and then cache it locally. So and I believe, let me make this full screen here. Yeah, so here we have some public properties that can be exposed for this particular component. So we'll have our own mix state tree. So here's the interesting thing is that state trees state trees can work. You can have multiple state trees. Yeah, well, we'll just do this for now. Sorry, it's the brain is like thinking about future edge cases that don't
Getting
exist
ahead of
yet. So
ourselves.
I'm getting ahead of my. That's part of my job too. Is unfortunately get ahead of myself. Okay, yeah, and then yeah, start logic automatically. That's fine. Okay, so we'll fill this in when we get a chance. But let's first make. Oh wait, this is the. There we go. I want to do this little window shuffling. Let's pin that. And then we'll have under artificial intelligence, we'll select a state tree, and then we pick our schema, and we'll select the state tree component schema. We could also do that here, and then we'll call it mix system. Or actually, you know what? The state tree is going to be relevant to the more. Let's do. We'll do. We'll call it. We'll call it level 1. Because it's going to be one of those. State tree is one of those. So state tree is a data. Technically it's a data asset type, even though it's got a fancy editor, which is cool about it. But technically it's a data asset type, and the idea is that you would probably have tasks. So we're gonna have a task type. Actually, let me do a blueprint, and then start moving. Like my blueprint definitions there. We're going to have a state tree task. And this will be a mix state task type. And and so in state tree, we're going to have different states. So like we could say, you know, it could be something as simple as like zone A, and then we could add like a zone B. And then these are your states. You have conditions for entering and exiting states. You have transitions. You have conditions for transitioning states. And then when you're in a state, you execute a task, one or more tasks. And so having created a mix, like a mix, a mixed state task, we can now invoke that here. We'll see STT mixed state. And so now we have a mixed state task. So that means that when we hit zone A, we will execute that task. And so the design concept that I proposed at the beginning is where that children of this task are a sort of data definition. Yeah, actually that's a good area of the schema. Yeah. Yeah, we could make that could be an interesting banner.
And Dan, before we get too deep into this, it might be
Yeah.
good to do just a quick little terminology overview of the terms that are in state tree. You have your evaluators, your tasks, your like enter conditions, and like all those different things. Might be good to just kind of give a high level look at the
Sure.
different components before we get too far.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Sorry, everyone. All right. Yeah, so here's state tree. On the left, you have sort of global, we'll call them global settings, but they're also just global um, objects that you invoke when you start using the state tree, when you activate this state tree.
And so are these like context variables and parameters? Are those things that are inside of the state tree and that's kind of the source of truth for them? Or
Yeah, that's a great question. So for the so basically the all of this stuff here is except well global tasks aside, evaluators, parameters, and the context actor class, and the context actor class listed here. Those are ways of injecting data into the state tree.
cool.
So, so yeah, so that's like, so in other words, we can create bindings between instances of our data or global instances of our data, right? And so, and so this is a way to sort of introduce information, parameter data, gameplay data into our state tree instance, and then um, bind it to things. And
Okay.
there will be some annoying. So state tree utilizes the category field and the parameters. So if you sort of dig into your blueprint knowledge, you can see that that on every variable has a category, and default is the default category. It's a very clever name, and so the um, there are some magic words for categories for parameter categories to expose them to state tree, and those magic words are input, output, and context. Say for example, like for example, our mix manager is going to likely be our context actor class, um, and uh, and so this uh, this this actor will have to have parameter data that is that invokes these magic words to expose parameter data to the rest of the state tree. So that's sort of an example, um, and uh, and likewise on like a mix, like a state, a task, a mixed task or whatever. I guess we'd call it mixed task. Um, so like for example, let me just give you a show, like show you here, my boolean. So I can make that a public parameter, but it just exposes it as a like a constant. Um, if we make it an input, so I made the category input. You can see that here. Now you can see it's an input, and so instead of setting it, I bind it. Yeah.
Nice.
And so we don't have anything right now to bind it to, but there you go. Oops, where did I go? There we go. All right, so that's the idea. What we're gonna want to do is, but what we're gonna want to do here is like the other thing about task is that they run. So let me just delete this real quick. Um, so we have an enter state and we have an exit state. And so upon entering this task, we're going to want to execute all of our relevant mix information, right? So we'll have, maybe some control bus mixes that we want to activate, and maybe some um
Submix
cha-
submix effects, right?
submix effect chains. and that way, and then we can implement those. So what we can do then is, well, so that's where we might want to do. Sorry, that's where we might want to do a data asset. So, for example, if let's say we make a primary data asset. So this is going to be a data asset definition, and then from that, its children will be data asset types, which are 100% serialized information. It's just a way. You can kind of think of it as like presets for a system. So let's go data asset, and we'll call it. Yes, thank you. Auto save.
It's looking out for you.
It's looking out for me. That's right. Let's call it the like control bus mixes, and we'll keep this one simple, just as a quick example. Although it's almost a functional example, we'll say, and then we'll say where's control bus mixes, and then we'll find control bus mixes, sound control bus mix, but we'll make it an array. Okay, so now if let me go back out, we go sets. So now if I go to miscellaneous and I select data asset, my control bus mix data asset is there. And we could say, so then we could say something like interior courtyard, yeah. And then this would be all the control bus mixes that we would want for interior courtyard, our interior courtyard mix. And then what we would do is on our task is make this DA what did I call it?
Control bus mixes.
Control, thank you. So we would make that like one of the parameter inputs, right? And so let me make it but not an input, a default. So in other words, in my state tree, let's see if we can. When I load this task mix, now I can load my like control bus mixes that I want loaded up for this task, right? So in other words, this allows designers a data-driven way of just creating presets, basically like mix presets, and then
snapshots.
Yeah, well, you could call them snapshots, but the thing about the cool thing about audio modulation's control bus mixes is it's stackable, so it's more like a mix matrix.
True. Yeah.
It's probably a better characterization, but yeah, so.
The overall asset could be considered a snapshot, though.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, yeah, okay, yeah. So actually, that's a really good point because they are kind of mutually exclusive, right? So
you're loading up the whole stack of
maybe that's what we call it. Maybe we call it a mixed snapshot. That actually,
because then we can put our effects and stuff in the same data asset and not have separate control bus data assets from effects.
Say it again. Sorry.
Then we can group our control bus mixes and our effects into the same data asset.
Yeah.
And not have, like, I don't know if that's what you were planning to do, but
yeah. Well, there's something to be said about mixing and matching.
True.
Right.
But
so, oh yeah.
You can compose your snapshot and like add them inside of it, rather
Yeah. So
than yeah.
yeah. So I was thinking the snapshot. So in other words, there's a task type, which is our snapshot type, which has data on
Okay.
it, which then takes the presets. That's sort of the idea. So we could have made it. So okay, let's talk about the difference between those two approaches. So we could make it where the mixed snapshot, and then we create like a child blueprint class, right? For every like interior courtyard mix or something like that, right? So we could have it where it's like this: the mixed snapshot has all the data on it, and that's what you edit, and then designers just sorry, where it goes. Designers will edit a blueprint, like a data blueprint variant, where it's just like this.
Mm. And do you mean to have that as a state tree task rather than a separate data asset class, or am I
Well, that
crazy?
no, that's what I'm saying is that, but
Okay,
the fallout of make of that approach is that your task types start exploding.
you're right.
So my thinking is we just have a mix snapshot task type that then you load the data asset on,
Mhm.
and the data asset contains all of your parameters, all the sort of designer data that you want.
Mhm. Okay.
That's my thinking, and I feel like that's just ultimately going to be a little bit cleaner than the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these are the
Um,
decisions that you can make when you're designing this sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, part of the decision is thinking about data assets as like leveraging data assets in general. Data assets are a special type of blueprint derived from the primary data asset. And they're literally just uh, uh, like a data layout. The only difference is, and they don't contain runtime copies. That's a really important distinction. So, in other words, a like regular blueprint. This actually came up in a conversation recently, and I hate it because it's sort of at the edge of my like understanding of blueprints, because blueprints gets really weird and deep, and so does unrealisms. But there's a class default object, and when you instantiate a blueprint, it makes a copy from that class default object definition, and that, and then you have a runtime instance of that blueprint. The instance means that it only exists during the lifetime of the runtime. So when the runtime stops, all the changes that you make to that instance go away because the instance itself goes away.
Mhm.
But data assets aren't like that. They uh, they are serialized data. So if you try to edit the data on a data asset, it will just change. Well, actually, it might not anymore, because that was something that came up a lot in. There was some contention. Let's put it that way. There's some contention about data asset serialization during Pi Plain Editor. That I remember, because there is a kind of workflow wherein you are playing the project, you're playing an editor, and you're like poking at the data asset reference, literally editing data and tweaking things during runtime. And like, I remember engineers getting like a little bit like worried, like that's not right, and trying to fix it. And then the like VFX artists were like, no, 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 don't fix it. This is what we like to work. So I don't remember exactly how that landed. I generally try not to edit things during Pi. In general, I just sort of avoid that. But that's also, by the way, you can edit things if you, and you can see this instantiation phenomenon, where if you edit during Pi, like a parameter on your blueprint actor or something like that, and then you stop pi, it'll go back to the original setting.
Yep.
Yeah. That's because that only lived on the instance, and the instance is gone. So anyway, so that's like an important distinction with data assets. But data assets are also really lightweight because they're just like a custom layout of data, just wrapped in an object. And the nice thing is they have you can add helper functions to the data asset. So if you want like an extra, like a function that'll do something, you know, you can build those into the data asset. So yeah, so then the question became how to package that data, and whether or not to like, should each data asset just have one control bus mix and one submix override, or should there be a map or something, like, and then what happens when you have collisions, or should we care about that?
Right.
So so yeah, so let's get back into this. Yeah, so where was, all right, so we have maybe an array of control bus mixes, or maybe if we keep it simple, like I said before, maybe it's not an array, maybe we just have a single one, and then we could have we can create a map of let's do a little blueprint structured, and this will be our submix effect chain. And on this, if this struct, we'll have a sound submix object reference. And then we'll have a submix effect preset, sound effect submix preset effects, and then we'll make it an array. And we'll just assume that the chain order is the array order. So that's something we can maybe add to the tooltip, is like,
Always do your tooltips.
okay, submix to override effects. That feels like a weird sentence. Anyways, then we can make where are we here? So then we can add our submix effect, right? Our struct. And there we go. Then we have, we can select our submix. There's my reverb submix as an example. And then I guess I just have this. Oh, I should have brought some more impulses. I'll bring some in. But yeah, so then we can have like, then the editing idea is you have these data assets, which are just very simple and represent. Oh yeah, let me go. Actually, now this is bothering me. Let's go back to the array. So I'm just gonna make this first one an array again. That's just bothering me not to have that. Because what if you just want more than one mix? Yeah. So then we can have a control bus. So then then it becomes a question of how to execute this in our task. So our mix snapshot oh, let's call this call mix settings. And then what we can do is on let's get it. Always validate object references. Always do it. And then what we can do is we can get our control bus mixes and then get our submix effect override. And let's just take a look at what we got here. So I'll probably just make things a little bit easier. We'll make this a we'll make functions for both of these. So let's do a function call activate submix effect override. Did I make that an array? Actually, hold on. Did I make that? No. Let's do this. Sorry. That was the other thing I wanted, array. There we go. Now we're talking. Because then on our data asset, yeah, now we have
2 arrays.
Well, this is not. Oh, this is right. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, so now our mix settings can include X number of control bus mixes and X number of submix effect overrides. Okay. So, I think we're done with that. And then this is the data asset. Okay, yeah. So here's the snapshot. We'll have activate submix effect overrides, and then let's add a function, which is activate control bus mixes, and I'm gonna do a thing. I think I can do. Let's see if I can just do this the way I think I can do this.
You got to do it the other way.
I gotta do it the other way. I gotta do it the. Yeah.
But
I could do. Maybe can I do this?
You can create. You can
That would've been awesome.
drag off of that though, and then just create a dummy variable, and then copy and paste it into your graph, and then do it inside of the function. Drag it onto your thing. So if you promote that to variable here,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I mean, yeah, it's a shortcut. You don't have to type anything, and just cut and paste it.
Oh,
Yeah, the set node. Yeah.
there you go.
Now you can get rid of it. I hate
Cheat,
typing,
that's-
so anything that I would rather drag a couple pins than
Yeah.
cut and paste.
Yeah, it's funny. All right.
Don't gotta hunt for the data type.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's go like this. Doop. 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 How picky are you on your like straight pins? Straight wires.
Me, I tend to be a little picky. I usually try to align to the grid though, is the thing. Like when I see a grid, I'm like must align to the grid.
You mean like the grid lines in the
like
background?
the darker
squares?
lines? Yeah.
Okay.
I hate it. I hate that I do that. I wish I could turn that part of my brain off. And I guess it depends too. Like if I'm in a blueprint that's already kind of messy, I don't care at that point because
Yeah.
there's no saving that one. But if I'm making a fresh blueprint, I do my best to keep things nice and tidy.
Yeah.
I do
All
use
right.
a lot of sequence nodes though, and that's to avoid like the over under when you have like a branch and you have to like keep the branch going on both true false, you know?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
So
I
I'll
mean,
do
yeah, I
sequence
got
nodes
you.
to
Yeah.
avoid doing that.
Makes sense. Um, you know, I realize it's kind of funny that I'm passing the parameter data in, and it's just it's like directly available. Like it's a public parameter. It's a public setting, public
Hmm.
variable. No, no, yeah, no. No, you know what? I'm not gonna. Yeah.
You want to make public getters and
Uh,
setters?
no,
We don't
no,
need to
it's
go
not that.
there.
No, it's not that. It's just that I don't need to. I don't need to. I can just do the work in the thing.
That's you can do that.
You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
just
yeah, I know what you mean.
here. Is that good? What do you think about this? Where it's like some of them are taller than the others.
I can deal with it.
You can deal with it.
Yeah,
Which do you prefer?
as long
Which
as
ones need to be on the line?
the events.
The events have to be on the line,
Yeah,
like this one.
ideally, unless it's overlapping another node, then like unless it creates collisions. I have all these rules for where the nodes must be placed, and I hate it.
Comment in the chat if you also have rules. I don't know.
Some people
I
use those plugins that have like the diagonal
yeah
lines or like the straight
yeah
lines and stuff.
yeah.
I can't tolerate those.
How about this where they're like offset by one square?
Line them up. It costs you nothing.
Okay.
Don't get me started on that, please.
Okay. So here's what we'll do. We will for each.
One thing about splitting pins is it can break in the future if you change the struct.
Oh, that's a good point.
So while it is nice to split the pin, it can cause you headaches later. So I don't do that anymore. Just thought I'd warn people. Just do a break.
Did I not make it?
It's break, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you if you need to, you can hide the unused pins on it, so it's not as bad. But
What?
trust me, it's worse to go back and fix up broken split structs.
Okay. Set. Effect chain override. Ooh. Yeah. I forgot to add. Where's my struct? Speaking of editing the struct afterward.
I should have let you feel the wrath
Shoulda-
of.
Yeah. Yeah, what's up with that? Yeah.
I mean, if you only have it in one spot, it's not bad. But if you have it everywhere in a bunch of different blueprints and they're not compiling anymore, then it's like, what have I done? I've saved nothing. Things like transforms and stuff like that aren't going to change, so I split those all the time.
Boom. 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 Look at that. Getting stuff done. Say it again?
Pardon?
What was that?
I didn't say anything.
Things about transforms?
Oh, I'll split transform structs and stuff like that. The I hope we don't add a new type to a transform or something, or a new element. We enter the fourth dimension.
This is an interesting problem. Actually, now I think about it. So I'm detecting, my edge case radar is detecting an edge case. So what I'm about to do might be kind of messy. Because I'm about to clear submix effect chain override. The problem with this approach. Can anyone in the chat find out what the problem with this approach is?
Well, there's 3 pins and only 2 input pins.
Okay, Eric. This is a good edge case radar detector. So what are we trying to make here?
We're trying to get rid of our chain, right?
Right, but what are we ultimately trying to enable? We're trying to enable the transition from mixed states.
Okay.
So, the question is, should we clear the effect chain override when we're going to transition to a new effect chain? In other words, there could be a race condition where on the same frame we call clear and a new override chain.
So then do we even need to clear it, or
we might not need to clear it? It's possible that we don't need to clear it. But we might want to clear it if we destroy the we might want to clear it if we destroy the like if we end the state tree, right?
Yeah, so when are we calling deactivate? Is it when we exit this task?
Yeah, so this is event exit state.
So why would there be a race? Wouldn't we exit the state before we enter a new one, or is that not the order of operation?
It might be at the same time. It might be the same game frame.
Might be the same frame.
If it's the same game frame, then they're both gonna enter the command queue. And the command queue on the audio thread is going to determine which one to do first. It's going to prioritize one of those commands over the other.
Yeah.
And the problem is if it's decided that clear should be processed after setting, overriding, then we will potentially nullify our incoming state.
I see.
It's like because it's a threading issue. Because they're going to happen one in a specific order on the game thread, but they'll just be put into a command queue, and then the command queue is going to parse. It's going to pump all that stuff off into the audio thread. The audio thread is going to determine how to process those in specific order. So we have the same problem when we talk about because we use for voices, when you set up voices, audio voices as an example, we use a voice pool. And so if you say play and stop on the same frame, let's say you do that on the same, you reference the same audio component, what should happen?
Right.
What if you said stop and play? Like it,
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So it happens in meta sounds too with triggers if you
exactly. Yeah.
Play and stop at the same time on a wave player.
Yeah, like a great example is the sort of it's like the reset, right?
Yeah.
Like when should reset be processed? Should it be processed after a trigger input is processed, or should it be processed before a trigger input is processed?
Yeah.
And and so that's anyway. Those are all great questions, and sometimes I think that there's just like a case by case basis. Like you have to think, what is this, what is the scenario in which people are expected to use this thing? Anyway, so that's where my brain is like, uh-oh.
Well, so how about this? Like backing up to kind of this, the design of state tree. Uh, and I don't know a lot about state tree, so like don't take my word for anything. There's transitions, right? And what if one of the transitions, I don't know if we can execute during a transition, but maybe one of those could be clear state on the way to the new state. So then we kind of have like a step in between where we can choose whether or not we want to clear it.
Yeah, I think we could do that. I think we could do that. Let's maybe that's a really good question. I wonder, let's just see what happens if I set this as an output. Um Let me recompile. Yeah, so setting it as an output. Uh-oh. I sense a crash coming. I sense.
Incoming.
You know what? It's probably because it's null reference. I'm feeling it. Where is it? It's paused. I can't access anything. Well, yeah. So, I'm just waiting for Unreal to, I don't know, do Crash Reporter. There it goes.
So, what can you tell us about transitions off the top of your head?
Yeah, so so the way that transitions work is I got it. Sorry, I've solved the problem before. Okay, so here's so the way that transitions work is they intake some well, they intake some kind of event to process the transition. So in other words, it could be something like an event that's invoked by gameplay. It could be something that where the event is like a tick update, or it could be something like a state completed, that sort of thing. So like when
Mhm.
all like for example, when all your tasks are finished, the state is completed. When all your tasks finish successfully, the state is completed successfully. And if they aren't, then it's failed. And so those are also events that could trigger a transition, and those could all inform. The transition is basically the movement from one state to another state.
Mhm.
So the transition allows you to dictate, okay, we're going to move from this state to this state, and then you can start setting the conditions
Okay.
for when and how that happens. And so it could be something where it's like, oh, I want you to evaluate this transition possibility every tick. Like that could be it, right? And then every tick, it could be something like, okay, evaluate this condition. Maybe we have gameplay parameter that we're processing that's getting fed into state tree, and then we
Comparing
can
a
have,
float and waiting for
yeah,
a.
exactly, comparing a float like we did last week, or it could be something else, some other, like this, like the task as an example. The task is just uh, a Boolean value, and so then the sorry, there's also a condition subtype. So you can make a subclass that is itself a condition, and it has a function that gets called that returns a true or false value. And so, in other words, you could just have a custom blueprint that just does any sort of calculation based off, like it doesn't even have to interact with state tree data. It could, ask your game instance what your high score is so far, something like that, right? And then return true or false. And then when that condition is invoked, then it would test that condition. The condition would return true or false. and then you would transition or not. So, playing into this idea of tasks, we can have a task that clears the submix effect chain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of doing it every time you exit, just have
exactly.
them be
Just
separate.
have a special task
Yeah.
for it, and then then the designer can decide when to do that based on the state tree movement.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So easy peasy. So easy. But I think we will still want to. You know what? We may want to split this task up into even smaller parts. I'm thinking that instead of just a mix snapshot, like we were thinking, I think there should be an activate mix. I think there should be a deactivate mix. I think there should be an activate submix effect chain, and I think there should be a clear submix effect chain. Override submix effect chain and clear submix effect chain.
Okay.
And so the idea is you could activate a mix once you get into a state, but then maybe that needs to persist across multiple states. That could be the case, right? In which case you should be like, cool, whatever, it's activated. Moving on. And then when you deactivate, it could be because another state's been reached. Or it could be something where it's literally deactivating every time we switch between two things or something like that. I find oftentimes we could have also a task that is just like a momentary mix, right? Like a mix that activates and also deactivates in the same task.
Like with an envelope sort of thing,
like on enter, on exit.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of like we were initially thinking. I'm seeing a situation for all those things, right?
Yeah.
And so you could have a situation where it's like, oh, I enter this state, boom, I want to activate this mix. I don't want to deactivate this mix until I enter some other state. But then maybe I'm like, when I'm in this state, I only want this mix to play. And so that okay, if we make the deactivate mix only happen, the deactivate mix has to happen on the enter state, or that could be a bool. We could have it as like a switch, because if you want like a momentary mix, you're gonna want to enter and exit. You're gonna activate and deactivate on the enter and exit respectively. If you want to deactivate a mix only, you probably want that on the entry point and not on the exit. Right? Because then maybe you're going to activate something else, or you're just backing into a previous mixed state, right? Or rather a like other mixed state that's already active or whatever. Yeah. So I think there's a use case for 5 tasks here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, keep it small and modular. That way people can...
Yes. This comes back to one of my my sort of design philosophies, and I don't know if I don't know, the way that I always articulate it is, which I think is popular, but I think the way that I articulate it is like, it's easier to create complexity from simplicity than it is to create simplicity from complexity. Right? In other words, it's easier to create something interesting and compelling with a bunch of simple modules than it is to create something simple, like create a simple use case with like something really complicated. Like if you have like one complicated mega module. And so I think as a design approach, that holds water. I feel like that. Yeah. So
with that in mind, do we still have any need for the data asset?
Maybe not. Maybe we can keep. Maybe we could. No. We still need the. Well.
Because you'll have your task.
That's a really good question. Yeah, because the task. Well, then the date. So okay, that's a really good question. The data asset then is the state tree, right? Because the task is a class definition. Yeah. And the state tree is invoking that class instance. And so so the question becomes, maybe, okay, here's what I would say. Maybe there's value in having a data asset just for the submix override effects, effect override,
Mm. Yeah.
because the control bus mix is itself kind of a data asset.
Yeah.
And so we could just use that and a custom asset or data asset for control bus mix overrides. And that way there's, because what's nice about having a separate asset is portability. If you want to use this in multiple contexts. So in other words, the way that state tree is going to, because state tree is also kind of like a data asset with like a fancy UI. And so the way that state tree is going to work is you're likely going to author state trees for multiple scenarios. You're going to have multiple state
Yeah.
trees for multiple scenarios. And so and possibly multiple simultaneous state trees. It's something that we kind of talked about offline. But as an example, you could have a mixed state tree that's like, this is going to this is the global environmental mix or the level mix or whatever, right? It's the base mix. So it's like it's like a zone oriented mixing system, right? And so then it's the state tree just operating on zone mixing, and then maybe you have a separate state tree that's like working off of enemy aggro, like AI and stuff like that, where it's like
Yeah.
receiving enemy aggro and stuff, and it's got its own mixes and effects that it's processing. And then maybe there's like another one that has something to do specifically with like player character state or class or something weird like that,
Yeah.
Yeah, because like because it could be like a or like momentary mixes, right? Like mixes. Maybe it's something that's related to like the weapon loadout or something like that. You have like a
An
mixed system.
explosion or something.
Yeah, like maybe it's like, oh, you've got grenades, so let's load up the grenade mix system, and then it's just like it's like a subsystem or like a submix system that's just like
Yeah.
you throw a grenade and it does the grenade thing, and and all of that's all the gameplay data, like how far you are and all this sort of stuff gets fed into that, and then you have like a momentary mix. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's doable. And then the something like a zone mix could be a sort of like a actor approach like we're doing now. So for example, if we have a volume actor, we could have the volume actor have a soft reference to the mix manager in the level, and yeah, and then that could feed state data. Or oh no, we need a state for the events. We needed a state tree reference. We need a state tree reference. So it could be that simple. So we could just send events to the mix manager from volumes, and the events are just gameplay tags, and then it parses them into events that go into our zone mix. So let's okay. So with this in mind, so we've got the system, and then we have the implementation. So the system is going to be these like 5 tasks centered around the gameplay state tree, and then the implementation is going to be we'll do a zone mix implementation, and it'll be like inside the volume and outside the volume as like a simple example, and then the volume will just, when you go inside the volume, it'll just be like a regular trigger volume. When you go inside the volume, so we'll keep it simple, and leave the volume. When you go inside, it'll send a message to the zone mix manager or whatever, and then and when you leave, it'll send another message, and that event will just be a gameplay tag, and the gameplay tag will invoke the state change. What do you think? No, you're muted. You muted yourself.
Sorry. Yeah, that sounds good.
For the people at home, Eric has a very loud keyboard.
There was actually a ambulance driving by. So.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But yes, my keyboard is loud. Thanks,
Yeah.
Dan.
Sounds like just like an ambulance. Yeah, okay. So then we didn't end up. Oh, yeah. Hold on, let me do Crash Reporter. I forgot to tell. Yeah, so Crash Reporter crashed in State Tree. It was parsing an empty array. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's one of those things that, like, State Tree will have to deal with, a more messy and editing environment. Like that's one of those things like when you're working in blueprints, you kind of have to put a bunch of bumpers around like, oh, the empty arrays, invalid references, all that sort of stuff, because people are going to do things in weird orders and it's going to be, it's just going to happen.
Yep. Guilty.
Mm-hmm.
It's
all right.
It's a lot easier to be clean in code than it is to be clean in a blueprint and like validate everything and do all the is valid array index and stuff like.
Yeah. I think there is something about code that a little bit forces you into this,
Check everything.
Yeah, exactly. All right. With that in mind, now I need to worry about what was it that I need to Sorry, I've got it loaded up again, but I'm trying to remember what I have to change back. I think it was just the task. We'll just delete that for now. And so hopefully I can load. Where am I? That's not where I want to. So I can load State Tree without crashing. Yay! Yeah. So let's delete all. There we go. Okay. So let's go back to, since we're going to rename things. I'm going to call this Zone Mix Manager. And, well, I've got this struct. No, we still want portable data assets. So then the data assets, so this is what really breaks stuff, is I'm going to rename this data asset. Let me delete this first. Yeah. Replace references with none. I'm going to force delete that. Okay. Was that right? Yeah, so we'll do... submix effect chain overrides. Or maybe I'll do singular. Don't want to pressure people into having more than one. And then we'll just delete this. Delete boop. Okay. And do you have impulses? No. Okay. I do have some impulses sitting around here, but
no, I don't.
Here we go. No, these are Dan's library. Oh, custom IRs. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Custom IRs. And where's my audio? IRs. Oh, I did load 2. Okay, well, we'll just load a whole bunch more. There we go. Save everything. List. And then... So you can make impulses like really fast. Look at that.
Wow.
More like mass pulses. Ha 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 ha. Then we have effects. Here we go. And we'll have cave effect. And that cave effect will use dark tunnel. And yeah, because dark tunnel sounds. Anything? Ooh, the vineyard would be good. For the courtyard. Effects. Courtyard. Vineyard. 1 yard for another. Okay. Right. Going back. So. Yeah, well, yeah, okay, so level 1. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. This is fine. Okay, for our context actor class. Right, so let's go into, let's do this. So we would go, the zone mix manager will have, we'll keep it simple again. I'm just gonna add the state tree component directly. So this adds it as a sub object. And yeah, get rid of this. And then I think zone. Okay. Actually, maybe that's something that you can look up because I've forgotten now how to add this as a context actor.
So you want to add the zone mix manager as an actor context?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Didn't you select it already as an actor context?
I
Context
added it
actor class.
here. I made the state tree reference a context. I don't know if that's right though.
So, I guess what are you trying to do here? You want the state tree component to be exposed in the state tree?
No. I want this actor to be the context actor
Oh.
that is used as the instance for the context.
I
Does that make
mean,
sense?
it says actor and then context, and then it has the name of your blueprint. So.
No, but we need to bind this actor instance
Oh, okay.
with. So do you see what I'm saying? So in other words, we need to bind this actor to the instance of that context actor.
Yeah.
So that the data is the instance data. B test. And then I'll make this an output parameter. Yeah. So So if we do this right, then it'll just have the output data. It'll populate here. So I'm not doing this right, and I've forgotten how to do it right, unfortunately. So I figured you could look it up.
Yeah, I'm looking. It says, for example, a state tree used by an actor will have that actor as its context. However, if the same state tree is used as smart objects.
Yeah, it's not a smart object.
No. I need a different article. This is the state tree overview.
You want to go to your first 60 minutes in state tree, I think is what it's called.
First 16 minutes.
It's in the same documentation family.
Okay.
Right. So we should be able to still send event. I think event. Send state tree event. Yeah, cool. So let's make a public function. Custom event. Zone mix event. And again, we will get validated on validation. And we are only concerned with passing the tag, the gameplay tag. I'm not worried about the payload, the custom payloads. Boom. Boom. There we go. Let's add our gameplay tags. Oh, I have a gameplay tags. Oh yeah, I've gameplay tags for. Let's just duplicate this. Mix state tags, and we will move. These are tags for the footstep system that I implemented very quickly and very roughly on the other day. Let's go. Courtyard and cave. And we will call this mix event zone courtyard. Mix event zone cave. Okay, and then I'm going to add this, oops, there we are, to my project settings. Gameplay tags, adding tables the old-fashioned way. There we go. Cool. So, going back to our there we go, blueprints. I'm going to make an actor BP a zone mix zone. I was watching the wrong screen. There we go. Or not. It's called. Yeah. Okay. Box collision. And then we're going to want to constrain the physics response. There we go. We don't want hit events. We want to generate overlap. No. And then we want no collision, or we want custom. Sorry. And we will generate overlap on the camera. I think that should do it. And we can make a test. Begin overlap. Collision. End overlap. Display name. Okay, so we'll test this in the level just to make sure it works as expected. It's been a little while. Okay, and so the idea is when the camera overlaps. By the way, if you want to do this, you hold shift down and it'll move the camera with your movement. Oh, I don't want to do that. Sorry. There we go. Okay, right around there. All right, so
You can also change the camera perspective, or from perspective to like top down.
yeah, but I had a pretty good. It looked good, right? I mean,
Well, I'm just, there's,
yeah, we could do this,
yeah.
and then you can. There we go. Hit F to center the camera. Yeah. But yeah, it's a little. I don't know. It's a little bit easier with the like lit. I don't know. Yeah.
To each their own.
Yeah. But I'm just looking for. I don't want collision there. I only want collision when the camera goes through, and I did not have that. I did not have the collision when the camera goes through. I was worried about that. I was worried about that. I think. Oops.
Probably want to.
Huh?
You could probably just set that to pawn, the preset. Overlap pawn.
Yeah, but I don't like that.
Why not?
But hold on a second. I think that was the issue. So
I guess the camera's not a pawn, right?
The issue, yeah. So the issue is that I think I need this query only. So, in other words, so hold on, this and this. I think that'll work. Because I think the issue was that I didn't have the query. Well, let's see. Used only for spatial queries, raycast sweeps and overlaps. There you go. So that's, I think, the issue, because it was set on no collision, no query. I think that's the issue. Damn it. Damn it!
Is your object type?
Well, it's... Say it again?
What's your object type underneath?
Oh. World...
Hmm.
World dynamic. I assume that it's a dynamic...
Just overlap everything.
That's one way to spam the...
Collisions. Overlaps.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's go back to overlap only pawn and then return to custom. I want to see what this is all about. Oh, so it's what? Okay, visibility block. Oh, that's interesting. So it returns block on visibility channel. The camera ignores pawn. World dynamic and world static it considers a block. Physics body block, destructible block. But then vehicle and pawn assumes, I guess, the vehicle is a type of pawn. So if we do that, just like... Yeah.
Hooray.
Yeah. But I want what I want, which is the camera. So I'm not gonna touch anything else. So let's see if I also get an overlap on the camera. I do not. I think it's because the camera doesn't have... No, it's definitely colliding.
I think you're also floating above the ramp, aren't you, when you walk on it?
No, but it's the box is covering the entire ramp above it. Like it's like or hide. Oh, it's oh yeah, hit. Okay, fine. No, the box is like it's...
Gotcha.
It's the whole thing here. Let me see this. All right, fine. We'll just do the pawn. So I don't like this. Generate overlap events. I think it has to do with the camera itself. All right, we'll do that. But I don't have to like it. All right. And then we'll have a soft reference. Zone mix manager. Mix manager. So we're looking for a soft object reference. And this will be a public parameter. And then what we'll need to do is we will want to resolve this reference. And then we will is valid. So when we enter, it's first gonna try to resolve this reference. What the soft reference does is it won't hold an actual hard reference. We're going to use this to, actually show you. Just show you here. So here's the zone mix manager parameter, and then I can look through the map and try to select this object. Now none is in there. We will add it to our level.
Yeah.
Boom. Now it's in our level. And when I go back to my mix zone, I can see there it is, and I can select it. And so what this does is it allows you to have a reference to another instanced object in the level. And then what this is going to try to do, this node here, is going to try to resolve that reference. And if it can successfully resolve that reference, this will be a valid object. If it can't, then we can try it again later. You know, that's something we can act upon. In this case, we might not do anything, but you know, there are, I think under, not here, not this, yeah, this, it's that's interesting. Okay, well, yeah, there, we can just keep trying it later on, but the idea here is, so here's the fundamental issue, and this is exacerbated in larger levels, but we don't know when everything will load in. We don't know the order in which it'll all load in. So it's possible that this volume loads in before our manager, which means that when it loads in, it's gonna not, this reference is not gonna be valid. So we want to make sure that this is a soft reference, and we can check it for validity after everything, hopefully after everything's loaded. So yeah, and then obviously, you know, obviously if it's not loaded, maybe there's other actions you want to take. Maybe you have to like tell some system to load it, or you know, who knows what. So yeah, so that's something to look at. And then if it is, we can also cache a hard reference if we want. And the what's nice about doing that, so this is gonna be like zone mix manager hard reference. What's nice about that is then that this object now will prevent the zone mix manager from getting garbage collected. Not that it was, the level also has a reference to it, but now also our zone has a reference to it. Our zone, our mix zone. So yeah, you can do that, or you can just try to resolve it every single time you want to use it, but it is going to be, you know, that's something you need to think about. Anyway, in this case, we're going to check it when we're overlapping, and we are also going to want a mix event tag, and this will be gameplay tag. Boom. So our zone will also have our mix event tag, and then we can, you know, have our, oh, we didn't have our, did I not add it to our tags? Hold on. In our gameplay tags. Oh, I just added the same one. Sorry. Mix state tags. There we go. Okay, so now we have our mix event zone, and we could say cave. And yeah, so there we go. And here's what I'll actually do. Is I'll make this real tall. And this real tall. And then I'll make that sort of behind that corridor will be our like cave, quote unquote cave. There we go. Make it more cave-like.
There's a lot of light in that cave.
Yeah, it's called Lumen.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Box extents. I do the extents because there's always a little bit of something that goes weird when you do the stretch, the scale, like the scale dimensions. I don't know. Volumes always get a little bit strange for me. What's your experience? Comments in the chat.
I usually scale it, but
Yeah, you go for the scale.
I haven't run into issues with that. But
Yeah.
maybe now I'll start using the shape instead.
All right. So, and again, for the people at home, you're like, why would you go through this trouble? Well, we're at 8 o'clock. Should we keep going, or do you want to?
I think we can probably get another stream out of this. Now that we have a pretty good idea what we want to do now, and I think we can split up
true. We do have a much better idea now.
Divide and conquer it a bit, and
I mean, we answered a bunch of really, I think there's sort of important questions. Obviously, when you're creating a mix system for a project, there are going to be more specific details that arise from that project. Hey, Bruda, who's just showing up at the end of the stream. Yeah, we're creating a state tree driven mix system, basically. And the point of going through this process is to create a very fast user experience. So in other words, part of the technical design approach, I feel, is to create like workflow accelerators for your team. And so I think, thinking about the user experience throughout the development process, you're creating something, and as I mentioned before, probably for a specific project, in which case you're going to have much more specific specifications, kinds of things that you're going to deal with, or the kinds of like ideas you have about mixing could be very specific to your project too. Well, because you could be making like a VR game, or you could be making like a casual match 3 game, and the needs and approaches to mixing in terms of the philosophy could be very different. But you would probably still want a mix manager in either case. Yeah. So so we're gonna wrap it here. I don't know. Did you have any thoughts wrapping up this evening?
No, I think we covered a lot of good, small decision-making things that come up in the process of planning a system like this. And then next time we're just gonna, put our nose to the grind and get it done.
Did you discover what I was the actor context thingy?
I think you're meaning to put that on the task or an evaluator, and not the object that the actor that the state tree is residing on. Because I haven't found anything that does what you're suggesting, but I have seen a lot of documentation about naming things in the context category that are like tasks or evaluators or transitions and stuff.
All right.
So I think we're close.
We'll have to, it may be that we don't even need it all because the instance already has a state tree instance, the state tree component on it. So we will know that next time. And thanks everyone for joining us.
Yeah, it's
really
fun.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we didn't have quips from Damien. He didn't. He always has something funny to say.
Well, next time.
Next time. There's always hope for next time. Well, thank y'all, and you can enjoy the music on the outro.
Bye.
Bye.